Two, one. What's going on, squad? It's another wonderful day at A Brodacious Life. Of course, my name is Jonathan. I've got the famous Dr. J with me here today. What's going on, Dr. J?
Hey man, it's going great. Just moved in to my new house. I'm excited. We got a lot of work to do on it. Appraisal came in, everything's looking good. And yeah, man, living the dream, rocking and rolling, ready to fix this house up.
Fantastic. So what we have today is a business roundtable. And what that means is Dr. J and I are on multiple business forums. I'm on restaurant forums, and there's great questions that show up in there from business owners who are looking for advice. So with that said, I'm going to put a couple of pre-understandings on this conversation. First one is, I am a business professional. I am not your lawyer. And some of these things, they are going to be, you need a lawyer. You need someone who is knowledgeable of every law and commandment in your state, city, and federal law. If you feel like you need to contact a lawyer in any situation, always contact that lawyer. Same advice goes with money issues. Every business is unique. Every conversation is topical, and we hope that we're able to help some business folks out. But if you need to talk to a financial advisor for your business, do it. I am not responsible for your funds. And the last thing is, I am a chef, and I talk a lot about being a chef on this podcast. So yes, some of these conversations are geared more towards maybe specifically restaurants. And then when Dr. J inputs in questions from different forums, maybe it's geared towards maybe other investments or anything. This is a broad spectrum of conversations and things that we are in, but they apply to all businesses. So don't feel like, oh, he's talking restaurants. They apply to all of them. So with that said, let's get to our first question.
You just
All
dropped
right.
all the disclaimers.
I tried to sneak them in there. I don't want nobody coming back at me because they didn't handle the business like they're supposed to.
That's
Not
right.
going to blame me for their problems.
That's it. But you know what? Those disclaimers, I'm glad people always need to pay attention, because how you practice business, finances and all is different state to state. So this is our experience where we're at within what our CPAs and leaders and coaches tell us to do, but it doesn't always apply everywhere. So you know what? Disclaimers are good.
All right. So with first questions, of course, I'm going to leave all names out. I don't want to embarrass anybody or be able to return back to a business. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. So we're not going to do that here. So please do not ask for names. Do not ask for business names. So how does everyone handle, this is our first question. So how does everyone handle time off and call outs when you get an employee? We have a counter girl. She's 17, junior in high school, started a couple months ago. She's okay. But after being given her schedule, she notified us that she cannot make it on a Saturday because she's got tickets to playoff baseball. Won't be a Braves game. And once in a lifetime opportunity.
Wow. And you're done. And you're done.
Not that in there.
Too soon.
Too soon, my bad. She's scheduled 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. The game starts at 7:45. We told her we'd work with her because it was a neat opportunity. Come until 6 p.m., then go enjoy the game. Take 30 minutes to get from the game to the restaurant. We have time in there for traffic. She declined the offer and says if we let her go from the restaurant, she understands. This happens frequently with our high schoolers and even college kids. They don't, quote unquote, need the money and still live off of parents. So they treat work as they're doing someone else a favor and act as they please. Dr. J, what's your solution?
Well, I would say there's a 6-step solution for me personally. And I want to be very clear. So in the companies that I have owned, there's been owners, but there's not been employees, though I've hired independent contractors to do some things for me. So I want to be very clear, in a normal 8 to 5 employee situation, I haven't done that. So I just want to throw that out there. But I was Googling as you were talking with me, what do Fortune 500 companies do for absenteeism? You can Google that. But the first thing they do is they create an employee attendance policy. The second thing is they have to enforce that attendance policy consistently, keep track. The third one, keep track of employee absences, Fourth, address unscheduled absences and no-shows immediately. And here is number 5 that I think is very important, 5 and 6. The fifth one is don't treat the symptoms, try to discover the cause. And then don't forget to reward good behavior. Make showing up to work so good for the employee that they don't want to stay at home, because doing the right thing is the cool thing. And especially with younger employees, that's been like when I'm trying to hire someone to go out and uh, do some things such as, walk some yards, walk some subdivisions and things like that. I've discovered that I try to make it a game. If I can make it fun for them, they're really likely to do it, show up, and that kind of stuff. So what say you?
So we talked in there, and you kind of mentioned there a minute ago. Remember, we talked a couple weeks ago about intellectual infrastructure. Well, an attendance policy is part of that intellectual infrastructure. So you need to develop that attendance policy and what that's going to be, and be open. And again, like you said, enforce it. However, I will say that times have changed, and you've got to be able to work in the way that young kids work. If you're trying to enforce a policy the way that it was done in 1950 and make it applicable today, it's not going to happen. So here's my solution, and this worked for me in the hotels. This worked for me when I had restaurants in college towns. We had a GroupMe app. And then I was very open about it. I'm like, listen, I want all of you here for these shifts. You're important to me. You're important to this restaurant. But I just need a body. Sometimes, like if for a host stand, if you got a competent person who can cover your shift with a smile, maybe they're a server, but they're really, they're bubbly and they know what to do. They're not going to be a burden on the staff to be able to cover that shift. Just let them cover the shift. Maybe do a switch shift, as long as it's not causing overtime or any issues like that. My policy always was just have your shift covered. Things happen. Things come up. Hey, man, my cooks, they got that sweet little thing that they finally got to go on that first date. I don't want to hold them back. I could be holding them back from true love. I don't care. Just cover your shift, bro. That's all I care about. And that's kind of needs to be the policy. But you got to provide them the infrastructure to be able to call out appropriately. Have you followed the necessary
I just got to quote
steps?
what you said too. You said, I got to cover your shift.
Yes. I said shift. Sorry.
Cover your shift.
Cover your shift. And again, it's all about just providing the infrastructure. It could be just, do you have a GroupMe app that they can communicate amongst each other? You as management might not even need to be a part of it, but you need to provide that infrastructure. Maybe it's run by lower management so they don't feel like you're imposing in on them. Because I learned, I let my sous chefs run it because they post memes about me. I don't care. If that's what gets them through the day, they got to post a meme making fun of me. I don't care. Just show up for your shift. Let's have fun, have a great attitude, and rock it out. That's all I care about.
I would throw in too, recognize the people that are there. Like, I had a boss one time, teaching in public education in middle school. I had an early morning duty post. I was out there at 7:30. I would get there before she was. And of course, she was the principal of the school. But there were some mornings she'd walk in and she would stop. She would turn around and look at me. She goes, "Hey, I just need you to know, I know you're here every morning. You beat me here every morning. And our school is safer. Our kids are covered, all because you're here and you're consistent. And I just need you to know that I notice." And it always made me, especially I was 22, 23 at the time, it made me feel so good to know that my employer noticed me, like my work and my effort stood for something. So I would always challenge you to reward the good behavior. I'm not saying you got to do it with pay, but sometimes an attaboy or great job, that goes a long way when you genuinely mean it too. Like they can tell that you're sincere.
I agree. 100% agree. So we'll go on to the next one. Looking for insight. This person has worked for us for many years. I do not want to fire her, but the dramatic ... I just found out that when a guest takes their credit card slip by accident, this server will just automatically add 18% of the tip in the computer. We are a high volume business, so I haven't caught it happening, but it's now being reported to me. What should you do?
Hey, just to be clear on this story, are they saying that the patron, the customer, did not intend to leave gratuity and they added gratuity? Is that what's happening?
That's what I took from it is basically this person dipped Because what happens is for those who don't know, when you're out at your restaurant or someplace that has a tip, maybe it's a spa or anywhere else so that you can leave a tip, what can happen is if you don't put your signature on it, they cannot, they're not supposed to put that through the system, specifically when you have a tip that's on there. If there's no signature, they can't do that tip. And a lot of times people just bring out and they walk off. There's also mean people out there who will dip at that point. They'll swipe, but they won't sign. And what that also means in a lot of places in a lot of states is basically that bill's not paid. And what ends up happening is the server or whoever is actually having to pay that tab. So this is probably someone. Now, the point that I took from it is now being reported to me. What I was more concerned is has this been verified? I think too often we jump to quick conclusions. We need to make sure that this is verified, that this has happened. And, is this a disgruntled guest who has reported it to you, or is it another server or employee? You need to get all of the facts that go around that incident, and you need to be able to take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say verify. I think that's huge. I I always like to work for employers that believe the best in me first.
Right.
And, I'd like to assume, no matter how crazy the world gets, try to, if you can, assume that there's an error. Now, having said that, for me personally, if you do your due diligence and you find out that it is indeed true, you should fire that employee on the spot because that is illegal. It's breaking the law and it is theft.
Yeah, it's a felony in certain states.
Yeah.
So you need to look into it. This person had, when I kind of went back and I followed up this morning. I believe I took this from a conversation on Monday and today's Wednesday. I went back and followed up and they're like, well, I haven't done anything yet. It's like, well, you have already waited too long. So do something. You can't just sit here and play the I don't know card. It's a minimum of a write-up. I mean, even if the best of the best situation happened and, it was a good customer who just happened to walk out, you cannot just assume an 18% tip, especially if it's not a policy, it's not written on the menu, it's not on the wall. That is a policy in some place where if you dip out, they automatically charge you a 20% gratuity. But that has to be on the menu and it has to be on the wall when they walk out the door, that there's no way they can miss it. I think Buffalo Wild Wings does that.
And Americans have to realize too that the way we do gratuity is not a worldwide thing. It's actually pretty unique to North America. But if you were to make that visit in Europe, you would not leave gratuity. Now, to be fair, it's because the workers are paid way more per hour up front. That's how it works over there. But when you have an international guest in your restaurant and they don't leave a gratuity, it's not a sign of disrespect. It's, maybe they don't know. I wouldn't have known when I was in Germany that I wasn't supposed to do that had my guide not informed me of how it works.
Fantastic. Next question.
2 questions down. Bam.
2 questions down. Hammering it out. Number 3, delicate situation and need some guidance. A male employee at our business has been sending inappropriate photos and texting harassing messages to one of our other employees, i.e., I'm going to follow you to your car and to your home. Good God. During their time off and outside of the business. When the person is in the building, they are super professional and shows no signs, but the other employee has been showing me the text messages and feels uncomfortable at work when that person is around. How would you handle this situation? I'm going to FIRE that person. The fact that you waited to type this out as a question let me know that you waited too long to act. Somebody needs to go to jail. That's some borderline serial killer.
If you verified it, I mean, if it's been verified and you've seen it, then, I would say too, has anyone had a discussion? Does the person who's doing the stalking or whatever, have they been informed that the other party does not consent, does not approve, does not like, is not receiving that? That is a question I have, is have they been told that their actions are
Yeah.
not being received well, I think that's an important, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
okay, because you got to remember now, again, I don't hire employees in this way. So again, please, anyone that's listening, to take what I say with a grain of salt. But I do know teenagers because I coach them. And especially if you're hiring like front of house workers that are 18, 19 years old and they're going through their first breakup, it is not uncommon for someone to like drive and sit in front of their house, not because they're going to murder them in their sleep, but because they miss them. And it's like a 6 months grieving because puppy love has ended. And eventually they move on and become normal members of society. And that doesn't make it right. But I'm also saying it
But for
doesn't make
those
them a
few
serial
months
killer
after,
either.
yeah,
What'd you
for
say?
sure. I was about to
I went through
say,
a little phase, not like what you just described in that thing you just read, but like I remember I dated a girl, I won't say last name, but I dated a girl named Katie in high school. And I remember she was my first love. She broke up with me. I took it hard. And I remember driving into the cul-de-sac in front of her house after we broke up because I missed her and I wouldn't be there more than 10 minutes. And then I would drive on. And in my mind at the time of 17-year-old stupid, it was like, well, she's asked me to leave her alone. So I'm not going to go to her house and knock on the door or whatever. It lasted about 60 days. And then one day I woke up and realized this is strange. I am weird. And that was the end of that. But I look back now as a grown adult thinking, what the heck was wrong with me? Like, it's a wonder her dad didn't come out and like, like, I don't know, be like, dude, you got you
bro,
say,
get your
bro,
life
bro,
together.
I'm gonna kill you. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. But I will say it was just that was that first love, first love broke up with me and it just took a little time.
Well, so back to our conversation. What I would
Yeah,
recommend
sidetracked
is,
it.
like you said, have that conversation. I went through it too, Josh. I'm not gonna lie. I still talk to that person. They're on my social media, so I'm not saying names, but I definitely went through that exact same phase. But for our questionnaire, I think it would be super imperative to, again, have a conversation with that chef. You need to have a conversation, or that person, sorry, and with that other employee. At the end of the day, if your employees are not uncomfortable and other employees find out that nothing was done about it, you are in a world of hurt. And the world of hashtag Me Too's, it takes no time for your empire to crumble. And by not doing anything, you are greenlighting. So you need to make sure that you are doing something about it. If they feel that uncomfortable about it, they need to get the police involved or whatever it needs to be. You need to be there to help. But there does need to be a conversation with the chef about, hey, bro, you can't do that. So
Right.
that's my recommendation. That can kind of go in different ways. I don't know the full context of it, but you can't. The fact that you've waited it out this far lets me know that you're not handling it appropriately. Number 4. We are about to raise our prices significantly. What are your thoughts about a public post addressing our price changes?
I think we need more information. For example, I have been at some companies or been at some places where the price of the product was raised, but it was because the product was such a high quality. It was a premium. It was new on the market at first, so they charged lower to get entry. And then as the product came out, it was discovered that this quality of this product was a premium product. So eventually they would charge a premium price, which seemed fair for the product. But in that situation, I don't think uh of social media post describing it as needed because word of mouth from the customers, the experience was such that I would happily pay a premium price for that um because of the experience. On the cheaper side too, if you're just raising the price because of inflation, I don't think there's anything wrong with posting something that just says our cost has gone up, therefore we're raising it. But I don't know. I guess what comes to my mind on that is Netflix, of course, a couple years ago or last year, whatever, increased their price by $2 or $3. But I understood how they got there, and I didn't complain. I didn't like it,
Right.
but
Yeah. I think, first off, they need to listen to our episode with the Price Whisperer, Per Shavorsh. Holler out to Per Shavorsh. That was a great episode. And we talked
fantastic.
about this very thing. So it's one thing to raise your prices. It's another thing to raise your prices significantly. That means potentially that you are late to the game and you could have potentially, basically, you've not been raising your prices appropriately over the course of a year. Price changes shouldn't just be happening at once every couple of years. It should be a ever evolving minimum 2 times a year that you're kind of moving that ball with inflation. And, sometimes I've even seen it to where we've actually lowered the prices. It doesn't happen very often, but I have lowered prices on menus before because prices on shrimp got better because the oil spill in the Gulf got itself fixed. So we were able to get Gulf shrimp and brought the price back down. So with that said, you should be updating your prices more often to where it's not an absolute hit to your customer. So I think they kind of failed a little bit on the backside, but on the front side, why are your prices going up is very important. If you're providing a premium product and it is significantly better, then I would focus my efforts on showcasing that through the marketing. So maybe instead of talking about on a social media post, I'm sorry, our prices have gone up 13%. I would instead put up social media posts about, hey, we've got, of course, I'm going to talk restaurants, but hey, this is Farmer Jeff. He's from such and such Omaha. He grows Omaha steaks and certified Hereford ribeyes. We believe in this new product because it has A, B, and C. This is his farmer. This is his family. It's a premium product. I think building it into the marketing plan is key, not just, hey, we're raising the prices, but showing them without saying why we've raised the prices, to show them that this is why we've raised the prices through marketing. This is the farmer. This is a premium product. It does A, B, and C for me at a higher level, more efficient. And I think that's the route to go versus making, and basically what it sounds like is going to be an "we're sorry" post. You don't want an "I'm sorry" post when it comes to raising your prices.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
agree
me.
with that. I never understood, you know, I'm sorry, but that always makes me feel like the product is in some ways cheaper.
Yeah.
I just, sometimes you can increase the quality itself. I know there's in some of the real estate forums I've seen there, obviously the rents, kind of what you just said too, I think is important. A good real estate person, as long as the market supports it, will increase rent marginally every time it's lease renewal season. But if you're not careful, then that tenant has paid the same rent for 5 years, and then suddenly you jack it up $200 a month, depending, where it's at. That's not going to be well received. And so,
Right.
like you said, the marginal increase, I think, is pretty important. And when you do that, most tenants understand that if the cost of living and value has gone up, then what they're expected to pay has gone up as well. They don't have to be told it's because the property taxes. Another thing too is there's a
Right.
lot of landlords right now that are finding, because they know with interest rates going up, the margin of cash flow is not quite what it used to be. So to get their tenants to pay more rent willingly, they're doing small improvements to the product or to the home. Maybe they're taking out that old carpet and putting in maybe just a laminate floor, maybe not full out hardwood, but it looks a lot nicer. It costs the landlord $1,500, but they're able to their tenant to go up on rent, $150 a
Yeah.
month willingly because
Yeah.
the value of the product has been increased.
Yeah. I think again, that's what it's about. It's about value added product. You look at, the price of the iPhone has only gone up. At no point in time did Steve Jobs or the new guy ever be like, we're sorry about the price changes. No, they've come on there. They talk about the quality of it. You see the commercials of this is the best camera ever to exist on a phone, and it's really not. But they present it in such a great way that I've been saving up now for 3 months so I can get me an iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm an absolute I'm an absolute tool. I got to have my Apple product because they present it
I
so well
remember
in
when
a
you used to
premium
tell
way.
me that I was wasting my money, that Apple wasn't worth all that. And then the second you got one, it was like, oh, I'm not so dumb now, am I?
I'll admit, I was an Android junkie. I did not see the benefits of Apple. I thought it was a lot of overhype. And then once I got my first iPhone, it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And I kind of get a little bit of it. I don't think I'd ever go back over to an Android phone. But it was once I got, again, it's about providing a premium product. Once I got in the Apple ecosystem, where I had a tablet or a laptop that went into my ecosystem with my earbuds, my watch, my phone and tablet, laptop, desktop. Once everything got integrated, I'm hooked. I can't leave the Apple ecosystem. Everything I have, like I hate my work laptop that they gave me because it's not Apple. It doesn't communicate with all of my other products like my Apple does. So I actually kind of do half of my work on my Apple stuff because it communicates with all my other things. And then I drop my stuff that I need over into a separate Google Drive. And that's kind of how I make the system work for me to be a good workflow. Apple just has it down. But again, they provided a premium thing. So the price of an iPhone has gone from like $600 to now for that premium, you get like the Ultra Pro Max maxed out. Things like $2,000. It's insane. I can't afford that one, the 1 terabyte, whatever. But, again, it goes to show you that when you're providing a premium product, people will pay for it. Mm-hmm. So last question, number 5. Come on down. Newer AGM here. I had a shift today that just everything went wrong. Reservation systems and error bookings on a Saturday, schedule screw-ups, fight between the employees, no-show, late arrivals from employees, products just not showing up in time for busy sales, and I feel completely defeated and then that I am terrible at my job. How do you guys unwind and recover from shifts like these? Dr. J, how do you handle a rough shift?
You just described every day.
I was like, hang in there, kid. The picture was like a 22-year-old kid. I was like, oh gosh, you're in for a lot of them, man. Welcome to the new world.
You're just getting started. Every mind works different. There's some validity in talking about have a hobby, have a way to unwind. But I'll say for me, what's really helped me in the last few months is I was a part of a course that I was a student in called Dream Life University by Eric and Tiffany Vogel. And as a part of this, and I've talked about it on this show before, one of the things that they ask us to do, the whole course is called Design Out Your Dream Life. And it's like I now have what my life is going to look like in 2026 when I wake up, what that day, what I'll smell, what I'll do. I mean, it's what my goals are, what I've achieved. In other words, I know exactly where I'm going with my life and what it is I want to do. So on those bad days, which recently for me, to be honest with you, has been about every day at my regular day job. And but I've come home at night and I open up my laptop and I go to that document and I read all the pages and I'm reminding myself where I'm going and why I'm in this. And for me, of course, my wife is having a baby in my truck right now. In the what do you call it? The little mirror thing. I've got a picture of the ultrasound, which, by the way, his name is, oh my God, his name is going to be Jeremy Robert, which means God will uplift. Just throw that out there for everybody. Baby Jeremy.
Yeah, I like that.
But I look at that picture of Jeremy and I read through what my life will look like. And I remind myself that this is my why. And I let my why be the fuel in my gas tank for the bad days. In the challenging days. So I think I would start there. That's my advice is number one. And don't just say, what you want to be. I mean, really write it down. And then there was one last thing we did. I'll throw this out there. I have a Google Doc that has 5 pictures of it. And those 5 pictures are 5 things, 5 bucket list items that over the next 5 years I'm going to do, or I will do, or have done. There's the 5 big moments. And knowing my progress towards those things make the hard days have value. Anyways, that's what I would say.
Fantastic. In restaurants, we kind of have these because there's just days where things they just don't happen. A cook has a flat tire. That ridiculous Cisco truck, which is the mortal enemy of any chef, is a Cisco truck. that Cisco truck will almost inevitably be late on the day that you need it early. There's always something that can go wrong. Again, it's about what you're going to do with that information, and do you have the intellectual infrastructure, if you will. I'm setting up another conversation that we're going to be having in next week, and are you providing the intellectual infrastructure to where when it does get rough, do you have an attendance policy for those cooks that are being late? Is there a policy in? Are you having conversations with your purveyor, whether that's, food or distributor for the restaurants, or, maybe it's the person who just delivers the boxes of clothes into your business, whatever that might be, and they're running late constantly. Have you had a conversation with that distributor about making sure that they're being on time? At the end of the day, are you going in and making sure all these things are happening? And then when you have these just really god awful days, I mean, I remember days working in restaurants where it's just nothing went right. The customers just could not feel happy. The employees were absolutely like, I wanted to just absolutely just like donkey smack the entire front line of my kitchen team, this complete physical abuse that I wanted to imply on them. I wanted to have those moments where I could be Gordon Ramsay and just chew all of them out. I wanted that honest moment of like, you donkeys. Like, I really just wanted to yell at them. At the end of the day, what I would do, is I would honestly just sit down. I might crack a beer, and then I'm going to write everything down. What went wrong, how it went wrong, journal it out. Again, I'm a big person about getting it out of my brain and onto a piece of paper, because if it dwells in my brain, it messes with like my insecurities, or maybe how I feel about something, might influence my decisions in a negative way. So if I'm pulling that information out and I'm putting it onto paper, then I'm saying, okay, these things happened. So I'm going to take some cliff notes, because you don't want everybody to know your inner thoughts about every single thing that they do. But take those thoughts, put it on a piece of paper, and then it's communication with your fellow managers. So you're an assistant general manager. That means there's probably, if you're a restaurant, that means that the executive chef is your equivalent. I'm sure there's something like that inside of like the other businesses where you're an AGM. You have some kind of management structure there. You need to sit down with that management structure and say, okay, we had these 5 problems. What can we do to make sure that these 5 things don't happen again? And again, key management is about communication. And when you're not communicating with your team, that's when you know that situation is going to happen again. And I'll repeat that. That situation, if you do not deal with it, is going to happen again. Until you fix it, that will be a problem. So make sure that you're going in, you're following in with a conversation with your staff. Okay, this happened. You were late. This cannot happen again. It affected our day by A, B, and C. We need to correct it ASAP. If it happens again, there's going to be a consequence of this. And you've actually got to follow up. What sucks is you got to follow up. You got to be able to back yourself up when you make that decision. But communication is a big key, and then getting it out of your brain and on paper. Because if I don't do that, I won't sleep at night. I will literally sit there and dwell on that all night. It'll eat me up, messes with my insecurities that maybe I'm not a good job as a chef or whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with all the stuff. I might have played a part in it, but it's not all my fault as an individual. So I just kind of want to put that out there. Dr. J, you got any closing notes?
No, I think you said it. Ultimately, I think people have to, when dealing with difficult situations in the workplace, have your core values and core principles that you stay grounded on. Act fairly and justly, but also act with grace when possible. We talked about a couple situations where you can't. I mean, if somebody has caused physical harm or is causing social and emotional harm, and they're doing it knowingly and willing, no. I think sometimes too, it's okay to let a person go. If not just for
Yeah.
liability, because that's what's best for the situation. But I would say ultimately, you know, remember your why, act fairly, act justly, and stay calm, stay grounded, and find a coach and feel free to ask people questions. And when you ask people questions and you stay connected and you network with other chefs, I would think, or other business owners, I think it kind of gives you a tribe and gives you a group of people that you can bounce things off of. And that's something I don't know if we really mentioned a lot today, but I would throw that out there for you, is that you're never alone. Somebody somewhere owns whatever type of business you are. So go to meetup.com and
Yes.
find a meetup of those people. Find, I don't know, like with educators, it's the GMEA, Georgia Music Educators Association. There's the National Association of Realtors for Realtors. I'm sure in the culinary world, there's a national association that you can find your tribe to kind of bounce things through. But I would say
Oh yeah.
find your tribe.
American Culinary
And
Federation.
there you go, American Culinary Federation. Use those resources. That's why they're there.
I'll say we're a part of some great Facebook groups as well. I really like those Facebook groups because they kind of get in depth. They're fun because people kind of post something up really quick, and then like the one that I'm in, and maybe I can post this in. I don't know if I can. I'll have to ask the administrator for permission. But one of the groups that I'm in, it's not a bunch of people who are just memeing up each other and just being jerks and being snotty about stuff. They're honest business owners who are going through things. One of them's a young entrepreneurs club. The other one is a specific um, restaurant, hotels, and something tourism. And there's specific niches, but both groups, they provide so much information, and I learn a lot from people. Everything from marketing, all the way up to how point of sale systems work for different groups, because point of sale systems are important for almost every single business out there. And everybody in those groups are super nice. They're there to help. We're all there to be better. And again, they're not mean. They're not rude. I'm in a few of those groups too, just for fun, but those aren't those groups. Um, so I hope this helps out. Again, I find this is just a fun conversation to have, and maybe one we can have a little bit more often. If you have a question that you want to bring to A Brodacious Life, send a message over to um, abrodaciouslife@gmail.com, and we would love to have you. Or you can leave us a comment on any one of our posts or a message over on Instagram. Again, A Brodacious Life. We would love to answer your questions and have fun and talk about how we can help your business and what's going on. Dr. J, it's been fabulous, man.
It's been
Absolutely
great.
fabulous. Let's have a great week, and we'll catch you guys again next time.